There we
Hello,
are.
guys. How you doing? This is a dual live stream of Expat American me and
Me, Countryside Acres, and my lovely wife.
Countryside Acres, Arend and his wife. And I'm forgoing the intro music because this is playing on both of our channels. So likely all of you watching, maybe you know both of us, but maybe you just know one of us. So in brief, if you know Arend and you don't know me, I'll tell you, I live in Moscow. I'm an American. I've been here for 2 years. I have a Russian wife, and I came here 8 days before the special military operation. And Arend and wife, what would you guys like to say in a nutshell about yourself for people who only know me and don't know you?
We are Canadians living in Nizhny Novgorod, hopefully be Russian citizens sometime in the future. We've been here for 4 months, came here with 8 children, and hoping to farm in Nizhny Novgorod.
Fantastic. It's good to hear. So you guys know us in a nutshell, or you know us very well. And the topic you saw from the thumbnail and from our title is Moscow is not Russia with a question mark. And I decided to choose this title because I get a comment almost every day somewhere on a video of mine from someone who's telling me Moscow is not Russia. And since I live in Moscow and Arend does not, and Arend recently came to Moscow and hung out with me, and he's from Canada and I'm from America, I thought this might be a good time for us to share our experience. Now, if you've tuned in because you want to know hard statistics on this debate of is Moscow in Russia or not, what I can tell you is it is technically part of the country, but I do not have hard statistics for you. That's not what this video is. Maybe I will get a nerdy person with big glasses to give you hard statistics in another video, but this is just our experience because you are either a Russian or a Westerner. And if you're a Westerner and you're thinking, would I want to visit Russia? Would I want to live there one day? What is it like? We're going to share our experience and touch on this topic of is Moscow Russia? Because what I've been hearing in the comments makes me think that some Russians feel like Moscow is the sheriff of Nottingham. So I guess, Arend, do you have any opening thoughts?
Well, I don't really know where the thought comes from, I guess. Why do they suggest that? I know beforehand you were saying something about the finances.
Yeah, very good question. So what I gather from the comments and the response comments, because I was asking, what are you talking about? Is that they feel like Moscow is collecting all the tax money around Russia and they're spending it on Moscow more than anywhere else. And so why I think this might be good for you and I to talk about is because we're new to this country and we've now both seen Moscow and we've both seen other cities, and we could maybe share, what differences we see. Maybe you do see a difference. Maybe I see a difference, or what do we see that's the same in Moscow versus other parts of Russia, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I was only in Moscow for, what was it? 8 or 9, 10 hours, whatever it was that you and I wandered around with. So
9 hours.
That's the only parts of Moscow I guess I have seen. So 9 hours? Okay. Yeah.
9 hours.
My legs felt it. I don't know much.
By American standards, you're an expert.
Expert on Russia, or expert on Moscow. I think I live here. Maybe I'm biased, but I think Nizhny Novgorod is a very beautiful city and would rival Moscow. They do a good job here cleaning up, rebuilding stuff, painting things, making things look pretty.
Now you're a farmer. What's that?
I said it's moving up in its position, maybe.
Moscow, maybe. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and you're a good person to hear from, Arend, because you're a farmer and you also do a lot of construction work as part of your career. So you see things that, a white collar worker is not going to see, like, buildings and streets and curbs and, things like that. So in your experience, your short experience, like you said, you feel like you don't see a big difference, or you do?
from the little bit I've seen of Moscow, no, I mean, it's nice, but I honestly, I'm going to invite you over here to Nizhny sometime. I think Nizhny is an absolutely beautiful city. I visited a few others, and I'm not going to name names, but I think Nizhny tops the other ones that we've seen. We've spent more than just 9 hours in the other cities. They do a really, really good job here of maintaining things and making things look beautiful. You know, when we came back, we were just, yeah, absolutely, it's really nice here. And so Moscow, sure, I bet it's nicer. I'm not a city guy, so I prefer a small city anyway over a big one. And you got to keep in mind, there's 18, 19 million people living in Moscow. That's basically 10% of the population of the entire country. So it stands to reason there's going to be a lot more money there as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. You know, and I guess I'll state my opinion now. But I definitely want to hear from Russians that have an opinion. I want your passionate opinion on this subject because I'm open-minded. I'm new to this country. Moscow is nice, very nice. Igor in Russia just commented that St. Petersburg is nicer. And you could have that argument for sure. And since I got this comment a lot, Moscow is not Russia, I was ready to travel outside of Moscow and see terrible places. And I have been to many cities and they are comparable. You know, the quality is comparable. Now, I can go through neighborhoods that look a little frightening, but I can do that in the United States of America as well. So my mind is open. I'm ready to accept that perhaps Moscow is hoarding cash. I'm also ready to accept that Moscow is just like any other capital city. And if you're poor and you're having a hard time in Russia, you know, I sympathize. But as someone who's lived in different places, I don't see a big difference in Russia versus America. And I don't know. What do you think in Russia versus Canada, Arend?
I see a huge difference as far as crime, drugs, dirtiness. Yeah. Even in the States, we took 3 months, yeah, almost 4 months. We toured the States in a motorhome before leaving, and just the garbage. Like, even California actually was a real shocker to me because they're always talking about how green and clean and everything is in California. It was some of the dirtiest ditches were in California. We drove. There's garbage everywhere. But yeah, just as far as crime, we don't see it here. When I walked with you in Moscow, we didn't see any visible drugs or homelessness or crime or anything like that. It was clean.
Okay. And you know, Arend, I'm looking. Are you sure your video is visible? Because I see a paperclip that makes me think it's not listed. I just don't want your people getting mad at you later. You guys might want to verify that it's actually visible.
Yeah, you flipped it.
Maybe your wife can double check that while we chat.
On where? On YouTube?
Yeah, just on my monitor, it's showing that paperclip as if it's unlisted. So maybe she can go into another platform and make sure it's actually playing.
Yep.
As far as she can tell, it is. Yep.
So, Arend, you were talking more about other things like cleanliness of Canada and California versus Russia, but I just mean in terms of if you were to compare the capital of Canada to the rest of Canada, is it different when you compare the capital of Moscow to the rest of Russia from what you've seen?
I think so.
You think Ottawa's nicer than the rest of Canada? I don't know. That's a hard one to say. Ottawa is a nice city, but not everywhere. There's places you go there that are pretty gross as well. I think every city has its nice parts, certain parts that they focus more on than others. No, I don't know. But again, I didn't see that. Maybe I was not looking for those same things. I didn't see that contrast between Moscow and Nizhny either. You know, if you go out into the villages, you're going to see more of a difference between city and village, I suppose. But between Nizhny and Moscow, I didn't really notice a huge difference. Same as I don't notice that back home.
This person says Ottawa is not looking good anymore.
Tense crime and filth. Yeah, that's true. Reading one of the comments down there. I don't know. Yeah, you notice a big difference in Washington?
If you only know Russia or if you only know America, I would say Moscow is like New York or maybe Chicago. Although, full disclosure, I haven't been to Chicago. I did, however, see The Fugitive with Harrison Ford a few times. So I have sort of an idea. I think was that in Chicago,
Um,
and I would say St. Petersburg is kind of like San Francisco. Now, these are loose descriptions, guys. Don't tell me the size is different. I would say Voronezh, which is a city in Russia of 1 million, which is south of Moscow, that my wife and I went to, and I spoke there for something, and that's on our playlist, south of Moscow. That reminded me of Atlanta. You know, it was a nice city. It wasn't crazy huge. It wasn't too small. So again, for me, when I look at both countries, I mean, I'm open-minded and I'm looking for your questions, but I feel like they're pretty much the same places, if that makes sense. As far as Canada, I don't know. I've never been to Canada, except I went to the Canadian Pavilion in EXPAT. So
that counts.
I don't know. Have you ever been there, Arend?
No.
No,
I find most Canadian cities, in my opinion, again, I'm not a city guy. I live completely different than that, but I find most of them are running into the ground. There's so much more evident crime, homelessness, helplessness, hopelessness. Yeah, it's just evident, and it never used to be. You know, when I was younger, we'd go to the city. It was a lot nicer. Now you go to a lot of places now. They got black lights in there, so people can't use drugs inside the stores, and it's just it's actually quite gross compared to the way it used to be. Sad.
Wait, now I don't know this. Rewind. What do you mean black lights? What is that for? To not use drugs? I don't get it.
Well, we asked about the same thing because we went into the bathroom of this one establishment, Tim Hortons. I told you about Tim Hortons before. It's a coffee shop. They're famous all over Canada. Anyway, the lights inside there, they were using black lights. And I'm like, what's that all about? They said, well, apparently you can't see your blood veins then. So they have such a drug problem and there are people using the bathrooms to shoot up. They've changed the lights there so they can't see. Now, that's not everywhere. But this particular city, we're like, whoa, it must be really bad here. The next bathroom, same city, the doors were locked, which is very unusual. Public bathrooms always open inside of one of these establishments. They had to buzz you in and out of the bathroom because same thing, they had so much drug problems to keep people out. Yeah.
I walked into a woman's bathroom once to a woman using one of those change tables, and she was doing cocaine on the table, on the change station for.
Yeah. The last time we came back from the States, we were on a trip to the States. We came back into Canada. I won't mention the city again, but it's a small sized city, actually. We stopped at the first Tim Hortons. I went to go get a cup of coffee, and there were 6 people stumbling around in the parking lot, twitching. You know, they were definitely on some kind of drugs. 2 of them, I'm pretty sure, were selling their bodies. We never used to see this when I was a kid, anywhere. Like maybe in Toronto somewhere or on a movie, but now this is broad daylight, middle of the day. Yeah.
Wow, guys.
So that's where I'm coming from. I'm comparing that to here. I don't know what these people are talking. It's beautiful here. I don't see any of that stuff. There's not even any dirt on the streets. They sweep it all up. It's beautiful.
Wow. Well, I guess we can touch on that too while we're at it, because we both have YouTube channels in Russia, and we're both from North America, and we did a collaboration like this, and then you just came to Moscow. We did a few videos. I think you have one more left to post. I noticed in our comments, we get criticism from some people, not a lot. The comments are 90% positive. That, we're hating on North America basically. And that Russia's not that great. Now I hope that I'm not standing in this country saying America is terrible and Russia's fantastic. I don't think I'm doing that. I think I'm just saying, here I am. This is my experience. This is what I saw in the US. This is what I'm seeing now. And you can quote statistics to me all day long if you want. But I'm just a normal person. I'm telling you what I saw there, and I'm telling you what I see here. And it is jaw-droppingly different. And just like what you guys are describing from Canada, just jaw-droppingly different. So I don't know if I'm confused or if these are like bots in the comments. But,
I think a lot of them probably are.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I think a lot of them are. A lot of them are just trying to stir up troubles. But I do find in the last 3, 4, 5 years, there's been a real divide in thinking in Canada. I think states as well. You can see a real left versus right, and it's gotten so far now that we can't even understand each other anymore. You know, we used to be able to come to the table and we could have a discussion about our differences, but they're so divided now that, you know, it ruins families. It's destroying Thanksgiving, right? Because people can't talk about the issues anymore. They're so different. And I think the people that would agree with us would see the same things we're seeing. And there's other people that are still trying to ignore it or hide it. But I mean, the visible crime and corruption, and we lived in another place. This was in small town Saskatchewan. We knew people who left, well, big, maybe 6,000 people living in this town. People were leaving there because the crime was so bad. They literally had gazebos stolen out of their backyard in the middle of the night. People would steal them and then sell them for drugs or whatever. You couldn't leave your kids' Tonka toys in the backyard, toys, because people would jump over the fence, steal them, and then sell them for drugs. And I was like, what? You got to be kidding me. That's how bad it was there. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So I'm making it sound bad. There's still lots of good there. I love Canada. It's a beautiful place. It's you know, it has a lot of potential, and it was a beautiful home for me for many years and for our family. But the politics are leaning it to a place where you can't live there. It's not safe anymore.
Yeah, and it's sad because historically, you know, in the short time that these countries have been in existence, you know, they've been nice places. When you and I were born, these were nice places, and the nature is great. And you know, I think they were built partly on God, on traditional family values, and it's sad to see how quickly it can fall apart. And I remember, you know, because I've been here for a little over 2 years. But maybe like 4 years ago, because I'm from Tallahassee, Florida, which is small town America. I think it's like 250,000 people. But it is the capital city. So there's a lot of government stuff going on there. And, you know, about 4 years ago, there was a lot of news coverage of BLM and riots and, you know, cities burning and people getting beat up and stuff. And there was something political happening, and because we're in a capital city and like some vote or something, you know, in Tallahassee, and then word was starting to go around Tallahassee that this group was coming to town, and that there were going to be riots. And you know, it's weird for me because I grew up in a town that's like, you know, 50% black, 50% white, something like that, Tallahassee. And I remember being like in my 20s and thinking that race wasn't really an issue anymore, you know, like in the 90s. And then all of a sudden it seemed to be an issue again. And here I was putting a sprinkler on the front of my house, you know,
trying to keep it from burning
my house, just in case if things got crazy, my house didn't catch on fire.
Those are some scary times in the States. I remember we had some viewers from Portland, Oregon, who were telling us some of the stuff going on over there. Like that city got hit hard, a lot of riots, protests.
That's awful. So sad. So sad. I mean, what a beautiful part of America, you know, that northwestern corner. And it's just like really falling apart. But I mean, I think that was an eye-opening moment for me when I'm having to water my house and I've got my foreign wife and my 5 kids inside. And I'm thinking, you know, I didn't do anything to warrant this. You know, I shouldn't be having to do this. I shouldn't be afraid of this. This is ridiculous. You know? And I think that was one of the, you know, things that pushed me over to say, again, not running from America, but just saying, you know, I guess it's time to move somewhere else because my wife misses her home, and why not? You know.
For us, it was all. I mean, we didn't have the riots. We didn't have none of that stuff in Canada, and I don't really see a race issue in Canada. I never noticed one growing up. I mean, we didn't have. It was all white people everywhere that I grew up. Other than, you know, there was some Asian. They owned a variety store and stuff like that, but. I think you see a lot more color now than before, but that wasn't an issue. It was just, you know, we had curiosity. Hey, there's some new people in town type thing, right? But I'd never seen any visible racism, and I don't know anyone that was visibly. I mean, people are people.
I think it's coming though. They're starting to teach it in the school about separatism.
Yeah. That's almost part of the politics now, is to do that deliberately, right? Create a divide when there doesn't need to be, when we're all humans.
Right. You were told once by a gentleman that you fit the character of a white supremacist male.
What?
Remember at the stand? you were in that category, and we were like,
Oh
"What?"
yeah,
He was an older gentleman.
he was talking weird there. He was saying chauvinistic too, because I'm a white male. Yeah.
He was surprised that I could actually drive the vehicle.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, we came into our farm, right, and she was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and he was surprised because I'm a white male that I would allow my wife to drive or something. Or I don't know. I'm not sure. That's like, yeah,
Well,
I don't know what that guy was talking
maybe
about.
Arend, you should, if you shaved your beard and grew a mustache, maybe that would help.
Maybe. Why?
That's knowledge.
My wife doesn't like the mustache.
No, I mean, because I grew up in a very mixed city, so I was friends with everybody, and when you're friends with lots of different people, and then just because of your circumstance, lots of different races, you don't see their race anymore. You know, it's just your friend, you know, or it's just this guy that you interact with, you know. And then someone might say, you know, make note of the fact that you're different races. You're like, oh yeah, I guess we are. And so I really thought it was gone. You know, racism is a thing, and then it has come back in the U.S. seemingly so strong, and I can't help personally but to think that it's some sort of manipulated issue. Now I could be completely wrong, but I'm just based on my life experiences. I can't help but think that and wonder that.
I'm sure there's still some there, but I think the vast majority of people just want to live in peace and have a normal life, right?
I mean, if you're educated, if you graduate high school, at least, I mean, you should know enough to know that that's just a stupid argument, you know, to treat someone differently because they're not the same as you. It's just physically, it's just dumb.
There was a cute story years ago that we heard is these two kids in school who were going to play a trick on their teacher. And so at lunchtime, they swapped clothes, you know, swap pants, swap shirts, hats, everything. And they were going to play a trick on the teacher so she wouldn't know who was who. Anyway, the one child was actually African-American and the other one was white. But it never dawned on them that they were a different color. They figured just by changing their clothes, they'd be able to play a trick on this teacher, right? So I always thought that was really cool. And just shows kids don't see color, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Our oldest son too. He had an Asian friend years ago too, and he never thought to mention that part in the description, right? So you're trying to figure out which kid it is. That never came up. It was just another kid, another boy he played with, right? But it would have been easier for us to identify which boy it was, you know, if you're pointing at a crowd of people. But that thought never occurred to him. He never saw that.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, just to further the story, to let you know how mixed my life was in America. My first wife is Hispanic, like full Hispanic, not white at all. My first two kids are Hispanic. My parents have adopted 3 kids from China. And I personally am not 100% white. If you do a DNA test on me, I haven't said my other part yet. I'll reveal that when the time is right.
There you go.
But I have a question I put on the screen. It's been up for a while. It's not technically related to the topic, but people want to know, how's it going with your residency? So you want to go ahead with that, Arend? You want to answer that question?
It's in limbo right now. We're going as fast as we can, I guess. But right now we are on asylum, or we've applied for that, and we have extended our stay here. The sooner we get residency, though, the sooner we can get citizenship. So it is something that we want to get done, but it's a process. Everything's a process.
Yeah, that's why I try and tell people, especially because my wife is working with Westerners that want to immigrate, is to be patient. It takes a long time. And especially those that she's helped come over that are here, but their paperwork's not right yet. You know, if you're a law-abiding, traditional family values person, you're here and it's in process, just be patient. You know, 99% chance they're not going to kick you out of the country. It just, Russia is technical. They want to get the paperwork right. You just got to be patient.
They love paperwork.
So, yeah. And I'm married to a Russian, so I have what's called Venje, something like that, which I have to, I guess, renew every year, like prove, yes, I'm married to this woman. Yes, I have so much money every year. But I'm curious, you said you applied for asylum. So why did you do that? What does that mean exactly for people who don't know?
Well, the reasoning was that we could only be here, and we knew this before coming, but we could only be here for 3 months on a tourist visa. That was the only way to get in. And then once we were here, we would apply for the quota, which we have. you have to have the quota in order to get into the residency. So everything's lined up, but we didn't feel we had enough time to write the language test in that 3 months time. And so the only way to extend our stay, either we'd have to leave and then reapply and come back, or what the government came up with is giving us asylum. Based on the nature of maybe not being safe to go back to Canada, they've allowed us to stay here, basically. Right now, we don't officially have asylum, but we have applied for it, which extends our stay.
Do you want to expound on Canadian safety, or you want to just leave that for now?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I don't know that we wouldn't be safe. I've been told by a few people because of our YouTube presence, because and I don't see myself as that. I'm just an ordinary farming guy, like want to milk some cows. That's it. But we have an influence, a presence now, I guess, influential presence. And we're saying pro-Russian things, of course, and with everything going on in the world right now, that could be hostile. Our governments are not favorable towards Russia.
Just recently changed laws.
They've changed laws, yeah. Like anybody that's speaking, so we've got censorship laws, and also if you're saying things positive about the special military operation, then that can also be a bad thing for you. We've also received a lot of threats via comments. People who wish us harm, wish us to die, wish us to get shot, wish us, terrible things to my wife and children, things like that. So, is it guaranteed that if we fly back to Canada, we'd have a problem? No, I can't say that for sure, but I don't really want to take the risk either. There's been other people that were in jail. There was 4 farmers that were in jail for 3 years, something like that. Long time anyway, with very little known charges. Yeah, doesn't seem to take much anymore nowadays. I don't want to take the chance. I'd rather stay here. I see this as my home. This is where we want to be. This is where we want to set up our life. And if we're allowed to stay, then we will.
So the concern might be someone might hurt you on the street, or the government might try to charge you with something because of the message you've been putting out to the world. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. I mean, the whole Western world has an idea that they want to implant in people's brains. They're using the media for whether that's print media or television or movies. They're telling everybody Russia bad, and they need that narrative to stick. And then you have people telling the truth from this side and saying, hey, it's not that bad. Things are good here. Things are actually better here. And this is how it should be in the West. That's not a narrative that fits with them. And I think that could cause a problem on its own. Right. So whether they, if you fly back, I'm just making up, I have no idea, but they could accuse you of being a spy. They could accuse you of whatever they want. I mean, they're the government. And then you find yourself locked up, right? So
that we were all over the media over there.
Yeah, there was a lot of liberal media in the West who were running our story negatively, making things up about us. So
okay,
yeah,
so
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. I don't want to take a chance on it.
Right. Yeah. So the Western mainstream media has painted you as bad guys.
That's right.
Basically. Right.
Yeah. And anybody right now, if you have you speak against LGBTQ, that's also classed as hate speech, which you could get penalized pretty dearly for now.
Right, which is why we certainly won't do that here. We love and respect all people. But no,
well, we do that. We do that anyway.
We do. We do love them all.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's good. And I'm glad you said that, because it's true. We really, it's not even a joke. I mean, we do. Especially as Christians, which I know we all are practicing Christians.
I don't agree with what they're doing, but
I love their souls.
Right. Well, I also am not going back for that reason. And it's weird, because I came here to live a quiet life. I wasn't planning on starting the channel. I started the channel reluctantly, because I realized that I had the training to do so. And here I was, an American in Russia, and all of a sudden there was a new Cold War. And so I started the channel, and I tried innocently, naively, to be not political and just show what I see. And that didn't work. The Wall Street Journal still did an article on me. And this past month, there was another US article on me and a UK article on me. And, I got an offer to go to Kaliningrad to do some videos. And that meant I would be taking a train out of Russia through Europe and then back into Russia, because Kaliningrad is a part of Russia that's disconnected. And I asked a legal person, would it be okay? Would it be safe for the expat American to take a train through Europe, or might he get grabbed by the West? And the person told me, oh, you know, Joseph, that's a tough question. And I said, say no more, you know, because if there's even a 20% chance that this might happen to me or to you, Arend, it's just not worth it. You know, we have a lot of kids, and where we're living, the quality of life is nice. And it's creepy and kind of weird, this idea that maybe I'll never get to go home, let's say, like home, whatever home is. But at the same time, you know, this is a very, very wonderful place. And this place is being very, very kind to me. And, you know, why am I going to take that chance? You know, I get to be a Christian here. I get to live free here. I get to be kind to people and have people be kind to me. I get to stay alive longer, to raise my children, to learn to know God and to be kind to other people. Why do I need to take a chance and go somewhere else only for sentimentality? You know, and it's sad.
Yeah.
And it's a shame.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
We have a lot of family over there yet. It would be nice to be able to visit them one day, but and I think, you know, down the road, depending on where this all goes, that opportunity may come back again. Just right now, I don't think it's a good thing, a safe thing, I guess.
Right. Well, I have another
You get
question.
some other guys that are locked up as well. Even Julian Assange, I know he leaked secrets, so to speak, but I mean, he's not exactly been given fair treatment for the last however many years he's been locked up. It doesn't take much grounds for them to lock somebody up.
For sure. And you can say, oh, I've done nothing wrong. But it doesn't necessarily matter, you know, if the shadows of power align against you. I have another question on the screen I'm going to put up specifically for you. But before I forget, because we are about a third of the way done, if you don't know Arend or myself, I have put his link below in the comments, and I'm sure he's done the same on his channel. So he is Countryside Acres if you want to see him out and about. And he is also Countryside Corner if you want to see more interviews like this. If you don't know me, I'm Expat American. So you can just look below and you'll probably see our links, whatever channel you're watching this on. And so here is the question for you, Arend. Did you figure out what product you were going to make out in your farm? I saw your videos on potatoes, milk, and stuff. Any ideas what to farm?
Everything. I don't believe in specializing in one thing. I think that has been part of the downfall of family farms in Canada, probably the whole West, maybe even here in Russia. Everybody focuses on one thing and then expects that thing to always work, and that doesn't work. Nothing works absolutely, right? It's always going to have an upside and a downside. I think the old style family farms were more insulated for economic downturns because they had a little bit of everything. And we just believe that model works better. We've been exploring that for many years. We did that in Canada on our last farm. We grew a little bit of everything, and it gives you an opportunity to sell a broad range of products and always have something for sale. If the beef market's down, then you got chickens to sell. If the chickens are down, you got milk to sell. It just a little bit of everything.
Now, I am not a farmer, so I don't know. I'll take your word for it. I will tell you, though, what I've heard for people that disagree with you, and that is the idea being if you specialize, you become excellent in that thing. And that what has helped the West to grow and prosper more so than the rest of the world is, you know, through currency, we've been able to each specialize. So in the past, everyone had their plot of land and they had to have their animals to eat. They had to have their animals to milk. They had to have their fruit and their vegetables to grow. And everyone had to do everything. And now in the West, you know, one guy goes to school, they learn to do one thing, and that's all they do. And they become excellent at that thing. And they pay other people to do the other things for them. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't think it's true. They do the same thing here. Everybody specialized. You have to call somebody for everything. I was discussing this topic and thinking about it a lot recently, is that us in the West, I would class as independent. Not everybody, but a lot of us farmers in the West are independent. We do everything ourselves. I don't need anyone else. I can do it. We fix our own equipment. We can build our own structures. We farm it ourselves. Here, they seem to be more interdependent, where and that's good in some sense because there's a sense of community involved in it as well. But people will tell me, well, I don't do that. That's so-and-so's job. And no, I don't do that. That's so-and-so's job. And I think that's such a strange way of thinking. I do everything myself. If I don't have time, then I'll ask someone to help me. But otherwise, I do it. I mean, I can't afford to get someone to fix my tractor. I just fix it myself. I can't afford to get someone to build my own barns. I build them myself. We're much more independent, I think, in the West. Now, as far as farming one thing or multiple things, the Hutterites are a great example of success there in the West. Some of the very most successful large farms, enterprise farms in the West, they have a wide variety of animals. They have a hog barn, a dairy barn, a beef barn, a chicken barn, their own mechanic shop, a welding shop, you name it, they've got it all there. And it's a group of people living in a commune. That's not for everybody. I couldn't do that. But they're very well insulated for any kind of economic shock, because no matter what happens in the world around them, there's always at least one agricultural avenue that's making money. And so they can ride out all those storms. If you look at all the other farms, not all, again, I'm exaggerating maybe, but a lot of them, if the global pork price drops, all the pork farmers are broke. They have nothing else. All the eggs are in one basket. There's nothing else to draw from. Dairy is very safe in Canada because we have the quota system. But if you look in the States recently, the milk price dropped so low, a lot of the farmers down in Wisconsin were committing suicide. There was nowhere else to draw finances from, right? So you're shipping milk for a lower price than it costs to produce the milk. You're going to go broke. You got a family farm, it's 5th generation, and you can't afford to keep it. And it's because you got everything all specialized in one thing. And if that thing goes down, that's it. It's game over. If they would have had
literally killing themselves.
Yeah, it was a big thing for a while there. Yeah, there was a lot of suicides going on. Wow. Which can happen, right? But I think again, you can insulate against that by having multiple streams of revenue all at the same time. And that goes for anything. I mean, if you're a factory worker, your only income's coming from that factory, and then that factory ceases to produce cars or whatever it is, and you lose your job. Well, same thing. Then it's game over. But if you had multiple streams of income, then you would be better insulated, right?
Right. If we take that further, though, can we live in a world where everyone has multiple streams of income, or do some people need to be working in factories?
No, I think you need some people that are specialized for sure.
Right.
The factory is just an example, but I mean, even if you got a brain surgeon, I would prefer he's focused on that and not not playing with it part time. You're not operating on my skull unless you're a specialist in it. So there's certain fields of expertise, of course, that you do need to specialize in, and maybe we need to better support those so that those ones are more insulated. But farming, I don't think is one of those things. Even construction, I can build a home from the ground all the way up to the top. I don't have to be just the guy that does shingles, right, or just the guy that lays the blocks.
You can ask him a question. Do you understand Russian?
Oh yeah, one of the comments here is asking Joseph, do you understand Russian?
I understand it like a 5-year-old. I can ask where the toilet is. I can order a beer.
Priorities.
Yeah, beer first, then the toilet, and then
just they go hand in hand, I guess, right? Good day, toilet. I can do that one too. Good day, toilet.
No, but it is a problem. It's the biggest problem. One of the biggest problems in my life right now is learning the Russian language, because I want to. And when I moved here, I was like, I don't want to be the guy a year from now who's like an idiot who can't speak the language. It's now 2 years on. And I can speak it like a 5-year-old. And my wife's like, come on, learn the language already. She's like, speak Russian. I'm like, okay, you want me to talk like a 5-year-old with you, or you want me to have a deep conversation? I'm trying. I'm doing my homework. I'm taking my lessons.
So on the topic of Moscow versus other places, do you find that's part of the problem? Because it seemed like in Moscow, you can get away with speaking English a lot better than you can here in Nizhny.
That is part of the problem. Okay, so 2 things I want to say. One, I want to commend you because you're opening my mind about being diversified. So that's part 1. And then 2, speaking English in Moscow. So part 1, I ran my own childcare business for 20 years. That was my business success. And what I realized in listening to you right now is I bought the older building, I did all the internal construction myself. I did the lighting myself. I built the furniture myself. I built the fence myself. I did everything I possibly could by myself. I had a giant shed of tools. I was like Jesus doing all the construction work. So I think you make a good point that if we can do our own, we should do our own. And it's good to be able to do everything yourself. Where I didn't do it myself, it was because the government regulations did not allow me to do it myself. I had to have their certified person come and do it for me, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So perhaps I've been programmed to think that I should be specialized and I should shut up and only do what I've been trained to do.
The system programs you for that, though. Children are taught that in school, and then you get sent to college and university, and then you have to be specialized in something. And I think why? Why specialize in one thing? Why not specialize in 5 things, 10 things?
Right. Yeah. But yeah, because I can do a lot, and people might see me on the show and see I'm living in Moscow and think I'm just a white collar guy. But I can ride a horse, and I can use a circular saw and a chainsaw. And I even learned how to use a gun recently, but not
This
really
is a good resume for when you come out to the farm later. I'm going to put you to work. So. Now I know what you can do, what you're capable of. So
exactly, I should come out to your farm one day for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
We'll find you some dirty
part
jobs.
2, living in Moscow, speaking English. Yes. There are signs in Latin everywhere, as I showed you, and when we were on the metro. So, which is good, because when I first came here in 2012, I don't think they had Latin letters on the signs all over the city. So I remember Sveta was just my girlfriend, and I took her home, and then I was going back to some Russian flat where I was staying, because we weren't married, we weren't staying together. And it was like, okay, get back on the metro and go back 5 stops, and it's this metro stop. And you're thinking, okay, fine, it's and you look at the signs, and it's not like Spanish or French or German or something where you can actually sound out the letters. I don't know all those languages. Maybe you can't sound out the letters, but I know Spanish you can. I mean, it's like a completely different alphabet. You cannot read it. You cannot sound it out. It's complete alien stuff if you don't know anything, which is why if you're thinking about coming to Russia, you need to get on Duolingo for free and do at least 10 minutes a day. But
start with the alphabet, memorize it.
Because there was a big sports championship in Moscow in the past 10 years, and they've really been doing a lot of construction and making it more of an international city. Before the SMO, there's English signs everywhere, or excuse me, Latin signs. So it's in Latin letters, so you can sound everything out. And people want to hear you speak English, so they love the chance to practice their English. The Russians want to practice English with you. And so if you're in a smaller city like Nizhny Novgorod, maybe that doesn't happen. But here, everywhere I go, people are happy to see me. They're happy. Oh, and this is a funny story. I haven't told anyone this because it happened this afternoon. I was with the real reporter, Konstantin, a couple of hours ago in Red Square. We were playing around with his camera, so you might see me on his show very soon. And I just told him, hey, man, if we stand out here long enough, because I'm so tall and my hair is different, people are going to start coming up to us and shaking our hand and taking photos with us. He's like, really? I was like, yeah, I look different. I said, I do this with Svilinon sometimes, and we get lots of fans that come to us. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah. And sure enough, this couple starts looking at me and smiling. I was like, come here. And they were so happy to see me, hugged me. And I was like, do you know Konstantin, the real reporter? And I said half English, half Russian. And instead of them acting like they knew him, they thought I meant to have him be the cameraman. They gave him their camera. So they took a picture of the 3 of us. And then they started talking in Russian, Konstantin and them, and they walked away. And he's like, they don't know your channel.
They didn't.
I was like, well, why did they want to take a picture with me? He was like, because you're an American, and they realized you're an American, and they were excited to see you. I was like, it's so weird. But it's a good story to illustrate, you know, how it might be here if you're a Westerner and you come. I mean, it's like that. I told him, well, that's Hollywood's fault because I'm not that special. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, they pre-advertised for you, eh? So.
Right.
Yeah, I think language is definitely the biggest issue, and I noticed that I went to look at a little tractor yesterday, and I took my daughter with. She's been taking a lot more lessons and really picking it up, and she's having a fluent conversation. Well, I think it was fluent anyway. Fluent conversation with this guy. You know, it's exciting watching them learn. And it's going to open up a lot of doors. I'm looking forward to them learning more because that's a whole side of business that I normally do myself in Canada that I'm having a real hard time with now. It's all in a foreign language, right? So.
Right. Well, I put another question on the screen. Moscow is, and we may or may not have the answer to this. Moscow is named the best city with the best quality of life to live in all around the world back in 2022 or 2023. We won't say that last part because that company has been deplatformed by this platform. So we don't want to get deplatformed ourselves.
Okay.
So what's
That's
the
interesting.
question? Yeah, it's cool. Maybe
well, I think it's
you
a
just
statement.
remember.
I don't think it's a question. I think it's just making a statement. So I would be curious to know who picked them as that. Like, what agency picks that? Is that an internal Russian agency, or was it actually a worldwide, like on the UN list, or where does that stat come from?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Because I read stats all the time, and not all the time, but sometimes, and I'm thinking, how did they make this determination? Especially when because I went to film school and I worked in Hollywood, and you know, I get roped into reading articles like 10 best movies about this, and then as I get older, I'm like, how do they know? What's the measuring stick? You know?
Well, for one, it depends on who you ask. And I find a lot of times the study is biased based on who pays for the study, right? So
yes.
There was an example of that actually in the Netherlands, and I'm not going to have it 100% correct, but it was something to do with spreading manure. And the Netherlands and Germany both did a survey or a study, and they came out with two different results. So on one side of the border, the manure had to be spread a particular way, or you would get a fine. And the other side of the border in Germany, it had to be spread in a different way, or you would get a fine. Both of them had completed a study and came out with different results. And to me, it's just another classic example of it depends on who's doing the study, right? What results do you want?
Wow, about spreading manure.
Well, it had to be in the Netherlands. It had to be injected in the ground and covered up right away. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure part of that's because it's such a small country, right? The smell, no matter where you're spreading it, there's a city close by. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of when I was running the childcare, and there would be different regulatory offices that would come over and make sure you're running the business the right way. And the fire department check wanted to make sure all the doors were incredibly easy to open to get out, right? And then the emergency preparedness people that wanted you to be careful in case of a violent attack from a crazy person wanted to make sure the doors were locked very well. And so sometimes their regulations were literally in conflict. So you could not meet all the regulation standards at the same time. So it's weird. Well, another question.
Always more regulations.
What's that?
So always more regulations.
Yes. Another question for you from someone who obviously did not watch our collaboration on my channel. Arend, when kids go to school?
Every day.
I like it.
Even on Sunday.
No. Well, Sundays.
So break it down for them. Tell us
homeschool
what
our
you
children
believe and what you do.
Well, we homeschool our children. We believe every moment is a teachable moment. So school never ends. Every moment they're awake, they're learning. We do follow a curriculum here at home as well, which teaches mathematics, history, reading, writing. But all of life is a teaching moment. As we were kind of touching on earlier, I don't believe in specializations. I think I should equip my children for everything in life that I can and pass on all that knowledge. on a farm. If we had one right now, our children would start learning tractor driving, things like that, at 8 years old already. I usually always had 2 or 3 welding helmets. My children would watch me weld with a helmet on, of course, and start practicing on their own by probably at least 10 years old, maybe a little older. It's all learning. Everything's learning. It's not just about sitting in a desk at school. It's all day, every day. So there's a certain element of that as a curriculum at home that we follow. And then a certain element is just life skills, finances, business, all of it.
I completely agree, Arend. I'm very encouraged to hear you say that every moment is a teachable moment. Every moment is an important moment to have with your children.
That's her
It's
saying.
not like
Don't steal
I'm
that,
a dad.
Joe. Don't steal that.
You and I must have heard it from some sort of U.S. propaganda book.
No.
But it's true. It's not like you and I are the father and it's Saturday and we're stuck with our kids all day and we just have to deal with it. No, those are our children. And thank God we get to spend an entire day with them and we can teach them about things. And I think that a lot of times, sometimes in the U.S., people are just expecting the public school system to do it for them. And, when it's time off from school, it's time they just have to get through it. And it's so not the case. I mean, we all have a different standard. We all have different things that we want from ourselves and our children. But as far as for me, because I consider myself a Christian and I, actively read and try to do what the Bible says, for my standard, I have 5 children. 3 of them are adults, and those 3 adults have chosen to get baptized where I go to church. So for me, I feel like that is a good indicator that hopefully I'm being a good dad. I'm not saying you have to be a Christian, you have to get baptized, but if you're considering it, it might be a good thing for you. And I'm just saying, for my own life standard, I feel like things are headed in the right direction. I've spent time invested in my children, and I'm getting older now. I'm gonna be 50 soon, and what's another 30 years or 50 years? Not much. I've already had some success. I've experienced good things. Really, what I have left to do is to help, my children be the best adults they can be before I'm gone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I've heard it said before, it's that dash on your tombstone. The date and the date don't really make squat for difference. It's the dash in between. That's what makes it different. What did you do with it? All the money you can make, you can't take it with you. I know some super rich guys in my life that I have met that were extremely successful in business and very wealthy, and their families are a complete mess because they spend all their time and efforts on making money. I firmly believe I could be a lot wealthier if I spent less time with my kids, but that's where the real value is with my children. If I can pass on everything that I've managed to learn to them, and then hopefully they know a little bit more than that, I mean, that would be just awesome. 2, 3, 4 generations. They say in 3 generations, everybody that's alive won't be here, or everybody that knows you will no longer be alive. And then how many generations are actually going to remember you after that? If you can make that dash memorable and spend the time with the kids. And so you mentioned about time. I think that's the most valuable asset we have, and it needs to be spent with the children. Oh, my lovely wife too, of course. But, yeah.
Sorry, I just laughed here. Somebody says, does the miss know that you temporarily lost?
Misplaced the boys. Does somebody asking, Arend, does the missus know you temporarily misplaced the boys at the museum? Yes, she edits the videos, so I think she caught that as well. Yes. Anissa does all the editing.
They were busted.
When I was talking to,
I seen them when I was editing. I seen them all of a sudden. They were way back then. You guys just kept on walking.
Yeah. Well, thankfully we were in Moscow and not in Toronto because the kids were still there, safe and sound. Everything was good.
Good thing they knew enough this day to get it.
No, it's good. It's good, and it was a good opportunity to show how safe Moscow is. And I it's my goal to be myself anyway. So it happened. We lost the kids, so there it is. And I think there's another moment in video 3 you haven't posted where I didn't know I was on camera. And feel free to post away, man. I want people to know who I really am.
I try to make you look good.
Yeah. Just don't make me look fat. So there's a quick question on the screen. Any Russians here? Can I get asylum as a Serbian from Stockholm? I have no idea, but you feel free to email my wife. She's in the description, her email, and she tries to help people. Here's a question for you, Arend. Can Arend tell, Arend and wife, about his experience in Nizhny Novgorod versus Tbilisi? I would like to know this too, Arend. And a good way to describe it is to tell us, what other Canadian or American cities it might be like, or what popular movie it might be like. Like, I have no idea what Tbilisi is, except it's in a place called Georgia and not the state.
Well, we are not city people. I've said that over and over and over and over. I've never lived in a city, and I don't really like living in cities. I don't like cities, period. I like my open spaces. So Tbilisi was our first experience ever living in a city. So it was a huge culture shock, just that alone. We also were kind of expecting like a, Mediterranean destination spot, nice and warm, culturally European, beautiful city. And Tbilisi has had a lot of hard times. So there was a lot more rundownness. I don't know if that's an actual word, but it was in poorer repair than we thought it would be. It has elements that are really nice, and then elements that were like, whoa, this is really shocking. And yeah, there was a time where you really took it hard, and she thought, we got to get out of here. We got to go home. This is terrible.
No,
we got through that though.
For like the first week, I cried almost every day. Yeah. I cried, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, it was so bad.
Really
so bad. Like,
pardon?
They did not recover. Yeah, well, they didn't recover, I don't think, from the 90s. Like,
well, go back to what you said earlier about specializing. Georgia doesn't have multiple streams of income. They don't really produce a lot of stuff to sell. They got a lot of wine, I guess, but they don't have a huge natural resource base to sell stuff from. Now, so they rely on a lot of Western money.
Having said that, I cried every day because of my selfishness, because of my Western thinking, right? I was being very conceited, and that's why I cried, because I was spoiled. That's what it came down to. Once we lived there for a long time, or we were there for quite a long time, the people in Georgia are amazing. We just fell in love with the people, right? They are so...
And the longer we stayed there, the more I loved it.
We just absolutely fell in love with the people, the culture. It was very... Yeah.
There's a real sense of community there as well, and the people really they take a little while to warm up to you, of course, because you don't speak English, right? But you soon learn little phrases, gummer, joba, and you say a few things to them, and they really warm up to you. They really like you. We went out to that one village as well. Everybody's just inviting us into their home, and you could tell these people had nothing. This one home we went into, it was very run down, but they kept pulling out more stuff to give us. They had a whole table full of stuff. Like we were just coming there for a tea, and the whole table's full of goodies and snacks and all this other stuff. It's very hospitable people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved it there. I would have considered staying there. As a foreigner, it's super easy to get there. You can just show up at the border, and they give you a 1-year tourist visa. Good for a whole year, and then you just step across the border and back in to give you another year. So it's much easier than coming to Russia. Like Russia here is a real pain to get here and stay here. It's a lot of hurdles to jump through, a lot of bureaucracy, and Georgia has no bureaucracy. It's very simple. You can't own
the border is not a thing here. They are locked down.
Yeah, which is a good thing for safety, right? I think, but it does make it more complicated. So, but farming is not really an option there. I didn't really see a lot of opportunities for farming. It's a very small country. The land, some of it is not the greatest. So then you have, isolated pockets that are really good, but there's a lot of people farming it already. And as a foreigner, you can't own farmland there either. Same as here. You also can't buy a village home. Here you can. You're able to buy a home in the village as a foreigner here, not there. So everything would have had to been done through someone else, unless you want to live in the city itself. You could buy an apartment or a house in the city, but not outside. So that kind of limited our options down quite a bit. We made some friends there. Some people I still talk to regularly. The climate was lovely. There's no snow to speak of. It was just a nice warm climate.
And the people.
Yeah, the people is what really gets to you. I love the people there. It was beautiful. As far as run down, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, there's not that much income, not many resources there. And then right now, of course, there's hostilities going on. The West is kind of messing around.
Right before we came to March.
Riots and stuff, yeah. Now, compared to Nizhny is beautiful. And I've said that before, and I'm not just saying that because I live here. It is. And I can tell that they spend a lot of time cleaning it up. There's beautiful parks here. There's beautiful walkways. They get trees everywhere. There's landscaping. It's a nice city. I really enjoy it. We love going for walks and strolls here. People, same thing here. I think maybe it's a Soviet thing. I have no idea, but people here are very hospitable as well. different than in the West. I mean, I go to my neighbors, you don't necessarily guarantee they're going to invite you in for a cup of coffee, depending on the neighbor, maybe. But then you get a cup of coffee, that's about it. They don't bring out a whole spread for you. Here, every time you go to somebody's place, they feel like they need to feed you. It's like, I'm full still from the last guy, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tea and
Yeah, and then the amount of chocolates that come out, it's amazing Russian people aren't fat. They just keep bringing out more stuff. So I think the hospitable side's the same. The climate here is much more like we're used to. This is like Canada. The trees, it's just this is much more easy for us to adjust to as far as climate's concerned. Yeah, and that's just
you can eat sugar. You can buy sugar-free chocolate here, so that's what I eat.
No, there you go. There you go.
maybe that's what I do.
I just need a farm, then I can work off all the food that I eat.
Well, I guess while we're on the subject and for the thumbnail, I guess I can say, as far as comparing Moscow versus the rest of Russia and to the rest of the West, I mean, I grew up in Tallahassee, Florida, which I said is 250,000 people, small town, and that has nice, well-to-do places. It has neighborhoods that you would be afraid to walk through.
Mhm.
Deadly serious, afraid to walk through, and their downtown area has classical looking buildings, but it also has scary people and scary places where you want to be careful. And you don't want to go to the public library downtown because there are scary people everywhere. And I have been to Washington, D.C. a lot, which is the technical capital of the U.S. And their main, tourist, showcase area, the Washington Mall, it is wonderful. It's so nice looking. It's like Moscow on a great day. But if you go 2 blocks over outside that area, it's scary people, scary places again. And if you get on a train and go from there to New York, you're going to go through some awful looking neighborhoods. No offense to those neighborhoods, but they're objectively rotting places, scary looking places. And New York, I lived there in the early 90s, and it was pretty nice. And from what I understand, the 80s was pretty bad. And from what I understand from looking at news clips now, it's pretty bad again. And aside from Florida, I've spent the most time in California. And the weather is really great, but, lots of scary places and scary people and dirty things, like I joke about when I'm walking through Moscow, how Moscow doesn't have these things and Russia doesn't have these things by and large. I mean, I did go to Tula, and I have a video about that, like a couple of videos back recently this month, I think. And we went through a neighborhood that's old and rotting. But it was interesting to see the old Nizhny. It wasn't scary. And that neighborhood apparently is due to be demolished and replaced with nicer looking buildings. So yeah, again, I don't see a major difference between Russia and the US for sure. And if anyone says that there is, they either haven't spent time here or they're being disingenuous.
You don't see a difference, a major difference.
Oh, in Alaska too.
I don't see a major difference. Yeah. So, yeah. So,
hey, Sean in Alaska. All right, hey, I gotta stop you here. One of the viewers on here, Sean in Alaska. He was one of our first subscribers. He is on here right now. He's actually still as a moderator because I haven't done a live for a year, I think. So, So Sean, hi, nice to see you. He's he's been faithfully watching our channel. I don't know if he still watches regularly or not. I shouldn't say that, but but everybody go check out Sean in Alaska. If you got time, click on his channel, Sean in Alaska, SEAN. Hi, Sean. We were going to visit him last summer when we were cruising around, but then we decided Alaska was a long drive north, and we decided to go south instead.
Does he have a question, or is he just saying hi?
I think he was saying hi. I don't even know. I was just excited to see his name. Agreed. I was born and raised in California. It has become a cesspool, he says. So,
well, SEAN is the right way to spell Sean. I don't know why. In English, it doesn't make sense, but I've been convinced that's the way you spell it.
How else would you spell it? SH?
SHAWN.
Yes, it is. I've seen that. Yeah. Shauna as well. I've seen that. Then there's just add an A to the end of that. So yeah.
So guys, I have a question I put on the screen for you. I don't know if you are legally allowed to talk about this or not. Are you?
The TV show.
Yeah.
I don't really know what's going on with that. We've been so busy with stuff lately. So we filmed the pilot for it. I know they edited it, and then they decided it was too short, and so they were going to re-edit it. And as far as I know, that is done now. I don't really know when we officially are going to start that. I think we're kind of waiting for our farm so that there's actually something to film, but I don't really know. The time will tell.
So guys, if you don't know, Arend and his family have been asked to do a reality TV show in Russian, I believe. And so they're being filmed living their life on a regular basis and starting their farm. And so there's going to be in Russian a weekly TV show about them. Is that correct, Arend?
As far as I know, yes, but we'll see. Hope if they like the pilot, I guess maybe they're going to cancel. Maybe they decided we're just not fit for TV. We're too ugly. They'll kick us off. They can't find a filter to make us look beautiful. They'll just say forget it. So.
Someone's asking you, I don't know if you know, I mean, I can give them an answer. How do we translate the Russian language on here, Arend? I mean, I tell my viewers to watch the show on a Yandex browser if they're in Russia and they are more familiar with Russian language, and it will dub it for you. So maybe that's what they mean.
Yeah, well, I think they're maybe talking about the comments, perhaps.
Well, the subtitles too.
Generally, if you click on a comment, at least when I'm looking at them, I have the opportunity to translate those to English. Because he's saying, how do we translate the Russian language? So I think he wants it to translate to English.
Well,
you know, it's
if you do it on the desktop, you can do it, I think.
I told you this, Arend. I don't know if you understood what I was saying, but since the war, or the special military operation started, whatever you want to call it, legally you can call it either way, apparently. You can translate when you're reading the comments. You and I can click translate and translate a comment unless it's in Russian. They turned that feature off, or it mysteriously stopped working. So if I wanted to translate something in Russian, I would have to go to a separate program. But now all of a sudden, the translate button is back. So if I'm reading a comment in Russian on my channel, I can just click translate and it translates it for me.
Do that.
Okay, so I always could.
What's that?
I always could. On Countryside Acres, I can translate every comment into Russian. Or into English. I always could. I'm reading
all the comments on this live in English too.
But on Countryside Corner, I can't. All the comments, people commenting in Russian, I can't translate. And I don't know why. But
you used to be able to.
Yeah, I used to. Yeah, now I can't. So now I have to screenshot them, then go to Google, translate them, go back, answer the comment.
But on here, I can see everybody's comment in English. I'm on the desktop looking at everybody's comment in English right now.
Right.
Huh. Very interesting, Anissa. I wonder why that is. Well, Anissa, don't be shy and give me questions if you see them, because I think I'm only getting questions from my people and not from you guys.
Yeah, I think the same.
That could be.
So here's a question for you guys that I want to know the answer to, because I'm wondering when I can come do my Dirty Jobs episodes on your channel. Do you think you can start farming this summer?
Yes.
Well, we hope so.
I don't know how much farming will happen. It'll be pretty small. So what we're planning on doing, we're going to be buying some land and we're going to build a house. So that's going to be priority number one. So we have a place to live before winter. And I'm hoping to build a shop as well yet this summer. In part of that shop, for Russians, if you don't know a shop, it's just going to be a long pole barn, if that makes any more sense. Part of that, I'm going to put my cattle in. I'm hoping to have some cows yet before winter as well, and some chickens and things like that. Then the real farming probably will take more next year, but we'll see how the summer goes.
So I don't understand what you meant. You said a pole barn? What is that?
That didn't make any more sense, eh? So a pole barn, you stick posts in the ground. In Canadian lingo, every 8 feet a post. Here, that would be like every 2.5 meters or something. That brings up the whole structure.
Okay. So yeah, I guess that's the way of saying a simply built, a very plain barn. Is that right?
I don't know. A lot of them are built that way. There's no concrete foundation in those ones. Basically, the poles just go in the ground. They sit on a concrete pad in the ground, but the poles go in the ground. The other way would be to make a concrete foundation and then stick frame Again, Canadian lingo, 2x6s. We'd make a 2x6 wall on top of the concrete wall. Pole barn's simpler, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay, so you bought a house that is going to be like for temporary living, that might be some sort of investment. And in the meantime, you think you're going to buy property nearby where you would then build your dream estate.
Wrong. We thought we bought a house. Turns out it's too much work for them to sell to a foreigner. And they wanted us to find a Russian to buy the house and buy our house. And I was like, I'm not doing that. Either I buy it or we're not buying it. So we dropped the house. We're not buying the house anymore. At least not for now.
Man. I'm
But
sorry, dude.
we didn't really want the house. We just want the land. So we're buying land near that village. We thought the house would be an asset we could, live in for a little while. But I'm confident we can have a house done before fall and we'll move into it.
So you have a piece of property you think you're going to buy, but it's not confirmed yet.
We should be able to finish the paperwork on it this week, I believe. So.
Okay, so you're 99% sure it's going to happen.
Yes.
Wow, 95.
98. Got to leave a little room there.
And you realize you are 3 months away from the end of summer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
Canada's the same. Man. We our last place we started building in August. We moved in October. So.
And
nice.
It was.
It'll work out. I got a whole army of workers.
You have a lot of great videos you get to make this summer.
That's right. Yeah, it's gonna be busy. And whatever, if it doesn't get done, then we'll go find another house to rent or something. It's all right. Somebody asked why we were staying in this apartment. If why don't we get a bigger place? Well, we had planned on moving to a farm or to a house much sooner, and we keep waiting. We worked on a few deals that fell apart, and so we're always like, soon we'll get to this place. So there's no point in looking for a larger rental home because very soon we'll be in our own place, and that's just never happened yet. So now we're going to start building. If it isn't ready before winter, then we'll rent another house. But I'm pretty confident we'll have it ready. So.
Okay, very good. That's exciting. Someone asked, and I'm curious about this too, what type of farming is Arend into? Now, I know you said you'd like to be able to do everything, but one thing that came to my mind was to ask you, what do you feel like you're best at? Like maybe the top 3 things as far as farming, or perhaps, what do you think you enjoy the most? Maybe, I don't know. What do you think? So what type of farming?
Well, again, I don't have a specialty, I suppose. I like all farming. I do really enjoy tractor work, so some kind of custom working or something would be nice. But cows, I love my beef cattle. I'm hoping to have those again. The farm we're going to do here, maybe I'll throw a little plug for our future business, but we do hope to grow vegetables, beef, pork, chicken, everything that you need for your table, and then offer that for sale. We'll try to have an online store and hopefully down the road a physical store as well here in Nizhny, where we can sell everything from our farm to you. So whatever you need, milk, eggs, cheese, butter, meat, vegetables, and then also year round. We would like the idea of growing vegetables year round as long as we can. I mean, you're going to run into some daylight issues perhaps in the middle of winter, but as much as it's practical anyway, have fresh vegetables available all around. Lettuces and things like that. And then, of course, we'll grow our root crops and we can store those ones for winter convenience. So a little bit of everything.
Wow.
We also want to gear it up. So then our children, if they want to specialize in one thing or another, can then take one of those parts of the farm and then launch their own on a larger scale is kind of an idea as well. Maybe one of them doesn't want to do everything. They just want to milk cows. Then we can say, all right, well, then we're going to buy this other chunk of land when they're older and they can just milk cows there. But we really like doing a little bit of everything. Wow. It's also a way that we can hopefully employ more people.
Yeah. I mean, you can create, an industry, a small industry in Russia, and business, and really bring something of value to the community, beyond a fabulous YouTube show.
Well, we're hoping to educate. we're hoping to use it to educate as well. So whether we bring school kids out and show them the value of farming, this is not just a Russian thing. This model could be anywhere, but I find people are so disconnected from where their food comes from. A lot of people just don't have a clue. And I think that's on us as farmers. You know, you see some city people that complain about what we do as farmers, and most of it's because they don't know. They don't understand why we do what we do, and then they think maybe it's a problem, or they think it's an issue, or they don't want to eat food because of, you know, something they don't understand. And I think that's on us. We need to better educate consumers on the agricultural products we produce, how they're made, why we do it. And that, I think, by and large, the vast majority of farmers really care about what they do. We're passionate about our animals and about our land. And we're not out there trying to beat animals or abuse nature or whatever. You know, that's counterproductive. We actually want the best quality for all of our critters. So we want to educate. I want to bring people out and show them, say, hey, you know what? There is another life out there. You don't have to stay in the city. You could also buy a piece of dirt, and you could also buy some chickens and a cow. And maybe it's on a homestead level where you got one milk goat, or maybe you grow that into a business where you got 50 goats and you're making some cheese to sell. There's opportunities everywhere I look. There's so many opportunities. And then there's a lot of people that don't see those opportunities. So if we can connect those dots, I think that would be beautiful. And that dash we talked about earlier on your tombstone has more meaning then. It's not just educating your own kids. You're educating, you know, a whole world of consumers, potential farmers, citizens.
Right. You sound like Temple Grandin talking right now. So.
I don't know who that is, but hopefully that's a good thing.
Oh yeah. Look her up. She was definitely a champion for farmers, and she, you know, helps people understand that, you know, this is not cruelty to animals, you know. Gosh, there was a movie about her as well, and I think she was mildly autistic, but she was very sympathetic to animals, but she saw how they serve their purpose and people serve theirs. I don't remember the name of the film, but I know that it sounds silly, but if you're a nerd, Sarah Connor in Terminator 3, look up that actress. She plays Temple Grandin in the Temple Grandin movie. But Anissa, stop me if you have a question from your people that I should answer.
Did you have a couple questions there? No?
We're going to end. We're going to end in about 13 minutes, guys. Because I think it shouldn't go over 90 minutes as far as for playback purposes for other people that don't want to watch it not live.
Okay.
But yes, a scan for questions and interrupt me if you have any. But here's one for you guys. Do you have friends among the locals in Nizhny Novgorod?
It's the difference between a friend and acquaintance, I guess. We have a lot of acquaintances now, people that we count on. I would say, yeah, there's a few friends. There's one gentleman in particular who's helped us out a lot, and I would count him as a friend now. I definitely trust him. Yeah, people are friendly in general, though. It's kind of different that way. Something to get used to.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's an important distinction, friend versus acquaintance. Now I'm curious. Am I your friend, Arend?
I don't know. You allow me to call you Joe, so I guess so. Right?
That's right.
Yeah. We had one ask me if I could still speak Dutch. Yeah, dat kan ik nog wel doen. I don't do it very often, though. Yeah. Yeah, there's a few words that I don't know anymore, so it makes it a little bit harder. But yeah, I can still read it as well. I don't write it. I can still read Dutch, and I can still talk Dutch. Yes.
Wow, that's awesome, dude. You should practice and try and keep it for sure.
That's my wife always said she wanted me to teach her Dutch, but it's like I feel kind of dumb. It's like you said earlier. It's like you're talking to yourself. Like nobody understands you anyway. So yeah.
He does that all the time.
Yeah. And now we're focused on Russian. But I do find that knowing Dutch actually helps me here. There's a lot of words that overlap between, like, I love language anyway. So I know a little bit of German. I speak fluent Dutch. I know a little bit of French. I know some Spanish. Obviously, I know English. And Russian has a few words from other languages that I find is, it's like, oh, I know that word. Of course, can't think of any right now. But, Kartoffel is one of them. So that's a potato in German as well. It's not just the Russian word. There was another one the other day that was a Dutch word. I can't think of what it is now.
No, I can't think of it either.
Anyway, I was commenting on it. I'm like, oh, it's the same as in Dutch. So, yeah. Once you know if it would help.
I would think if there's enough good entertainment in that language, you could keep it up that way. Like if there were good movies and shows in Dutch, you know, if you watch, you know, something every other night, you know, maybe that could help you, but I don't know. Is
Probably.
there good Dutch entertainment? Do you know?
No, the last time I remember, I haven't been to the Netherlands since I was 16, but I remember watching some movies with my cousins, and I was just watching movies in English, and they had to read all the Dutch subtitles underneath. So it was pretty good for me. It was just like watching a movie at home.
Right.
I
Okay.
think you had another couple comments there, no? There's a lot of comments here. Sorry we're not getting to them all. If you haven't noticed, this live has actually kind of been hosted. Well, not kind of. It's been hosted by Joe, the expat American. And so we're kind of taking a second seat here today. But we do value all your comments and opinions, and we'd love to address them all.
And we thank you for the supers.
Oh, we're getting supers?
Yeah.
Mhm.
What I tell my people is live, I will read the questions as best I can, but the comments that aren't questions, I'll read those later in the playback.
Okay, so you're looking at your phone for this?
No, I'm on StreamYard because Aaron and I both have a secondary program called StreamYard, guys, and allows us to, it just lays it out better than just using the YouTube platform. And it's showing me the questions that my subscribers are asking. To you
screen.
and to me. Yeah, it's on the screen. So I see my face is 1/3, you're 1/3, and then it's a row of questions.
I'll have to ask you how to set that up because I have nothing on my screen. So I'm staring at just you and me. That's it. And my wife is sitting beside me with a laptop open, looking at comments and questions on YouTube.
Oh, sure. Well, you know what, man? What we should do is like sometime in a few days from now, in the middle of the week, when not too many people are on, you can just do a test like for 10 minutes with me. You set up instead, and we'll just practice. And some people can jump on for fun, and we'll just call it a test. I did that with Josiah many times when I started doing the live. People were happy.
When I click on, if I click on chat here, it actually covers up the whole screen. I can't even see you and me anymore.
Weird. Okay.
I think it's because you're sideways.
Maybe it's because I'm sideways. I don't know. Who knows?
So we'll end in about 9 minutes, guys. But so here's a question: what is your favorite Russian food now?
I don't think I have one. Borscht. Yeah, soup. But I don't know. People are going to hate me for this, but I don't really find borscht as distinctly Russian. I mean, I grew up eating soup, so it's not like it's new to me.
They put cabbage in it. That makes
cabbage soup. Yeah, maybe.
But something people don't know, but I'm celiac, so we cut a lot of wheat out of our diet back in Canada, and for a while there, the substitute was cabbage.
Yeah, we ate a lot of cabbage.
We fried cabbage. We cooked cabbage in a lot of different ways. So then I started cooking a lot of our soups with cabbage in it and stuff to substitute.
Even like a lasagna
and stuff.
You like cabbage in instead of the lasagna.
So when we got here and they said that this special soup, and we were like, oh, well, it's just like what we were used to. So maybe I was getting prepared for Russian food.
And a lot of people claim potatoes is like a Russian food. So, well, us poor Dutchmen eat an enormous amount of potatoes as well. I often wonder what people ate before they found the New World, right? Potatoes come from Peru. I'm assuming you knew that as well. So before Columbus found the New World, there was no potatoes in Europe. And that's hard to believe.
I mean, there's so much food that we take for granted that is relatively new to the human race. I mean, coffee is relatively new. Chocolate chip cookies are only 100 years old.
You don't think Noah had coffee break when he was building the ark?
He did not.
No wonder it took him 100 years to get that thing done, eh?
Well, I'll say my favorite Russian food is grenki. It's just a snack food. It's like fried rye bread sticks, like crouton sticks, and you have them with beer. I don't eat them right now, though, because I stopped doing carbs about 2 months ago. So no rice, no flour, no sugar, no pasta.
No beer.
Because I'm going to be 50 soon, and I'm trying to tighten it up.
There you go. I'm only 40. I got a long way to go, man.
Yeah, you got a long way to go. Just go crazy, man. Double your size. Don't worry about it.
I think I've already done that since I got to Russia, man. I was looking at some photos and videos. I'm like, wow, I'm getting chunky. So,
well, we haven't.
You exercise.
Summer's coming, Arend. You got 5 days to get.
Yeah, we sold our farm almost a year ago, so it's been a long time of doing very little. I'm looking forward to some work. get back to work.
Well, I put something on the screen here before we run out of time. This is from one of my moderators just saying that they love me and I appreciate it. And I did this because I want to give a shout out to my moderators. So this is Natalia with Bricks, and you may know her. Most of you know her from my Victory Day parade rehearsal video. That is her most popular video on my channel. And I also have another moderator, Peter Forwin, who was on this live a couple of times ago. So you guys have a moderator you want to give a shout out to?
Well, Sean in Alaska.
Sean in Alaska is one of them, so I encourage you to go look at him. I don't know if he's doing any moderating. He's just been a moderator for years.
And Sherry.
Sherry is our other moderator, but she doesn't have a YouTube presence. But we still appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sherry.
She does a lot of work behind the scenes, just cleaning up. She goes from video to video and cleans up a lot of the vulgar, nasty, mean comments. Yep. So if you hear us say that we have a lot of mean comments and you say, well, I don't see them, well, that's because Sherry cleans them up. Yeah.
Thank you, Sherry.
Do you or will your children be obligated to serve in the Russian military? That's a good question.
That is my next question for you. Perhaps my last question for you, because we have 5 minutes left. And this person, there is no try, I assume is a Star Wars fan, and they gave me $5. So thank you. There is no try. So, so my one moderator, Natalia, she has a YouTube channel. I'll put it in the description. But what do you think, Aaron? How do you want to answer this slightly controversial question?
Well, all males 18 to 27, I think it is, are required 1 year of military service here in Russia. I believe that is a good thing. We have a difference of opinion here on this. The Netherlands used to have conscription as well. The oldest male from every family would have to go. They scrapped that in 89 or 91, probably 91 when the Soviet Union collapsed. But most countries used to have this, and I do believe it is a man's job to defend his home. Now, we differ on opinion there a little bit. She would prefer there's no war, obviously. So would I. I prefer that our children wouldn't have to go, but I recognize that somebody has to defend the country. And I think it's unwise to not have people prepared. If you look at countries like Israel, everybody goes as well, and then you have a populace who is somewhat trained and ready to defend. So I think it's important. I think it's necessary. Now, having said that, Russia does allow for alternative service. If for conscious reasons you cannot fight, or if you don't want to, there is alternative service. It is twice as long, I believe, almost. Mm-hmm. And so you can apply for that instead. You will have to serve somewhere else. You can't stay in your own area. You would have to move to another town or city or somewhere, and you would serve for twice as long, but in a non-military capacity, maybe in a hospital or I don't know, somewhere else.
So that is for 2 years. For 2 years, you're going to go be a janitor somewhere.
Possibly.
Or whatever
something like that.
Trip.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I don't know about the timeline wise, but I think it's important for every one of us to serve our country in some capacity anyway.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and whatever it be, whether there's a war or not, we should serve. Like in Canada now, they do have volunteer. You have to have X amount of volunteer hours as part of your schooling, and I think that's good. It's not always about the money; it's about what you can do. I forget. There was a U.S. president that said that ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And I think that mindset, that sentiment, is very important. We should all be asking, what can we do to make this world a better place? So volunteering is good.
I completely agree, and this is the first time hearing of this. I had said before, what if they had like janitorial service for people who don't want to serve? And I think that's fantastic. What you're telling me is they basically have that. You just have to do 2 years instead of 1, which I think is great, because then people can really decide, am I serious about this or not? Because there are nerdy guys out there that wouldn't want to or wouldn't be able to serve, but you still need to have a certain standard. If my kid says, I'm sick, I can't work, or I can't go to school, I tell them, okay, that's fine, but you're not playing with toys and you're not watching TV today because you're sick. You don't feel well. You need to rest. Now, they might be able to argue, and they might sometimes try to argue, well, I'm well enough to watch TV. Yeah, but we're gonna have this standard so that you can really think deeply. Is this really important to you or not? And I think from a governmental perspective, I think that is absolutely fair if that's the case. You feel like your conscience says you cannot serve your country in a military fashion for 1 year. We will let you do this instead for 2 years. I think that's absolutely fair.
And the flip side is that if my kids all go and yours don't, how is that fair? I look out the window and I see yours playing in the yard. Well, like, they wouldn't be at that age, but anyway, you get the point. You know,
I get you.
That's not fair either. And I think that's the idea with serving in another community. So they still leave home. The same system happens. It's just not military. Now, somebody just asked me here. They said, so your children will go into the Russian army. I would leave that up to my children to decide. I'm not going to make that decision up for them. If they wish to be a conscientious objector and go for the 2-year service somewhere else, or if they would like to serve 1 year in the army, that is up to, I'll leave that up to the children to decide. Obviously, we influence them by communicating with them, but it's their decision ultimately how they would like to serve their country. And also, I would like to add to it that people that are getting conscripted are not going to the front line. I think that's a big misconception that they have as well. These people are serving behind the scenes somewhere and getting training. They're not sending raw recruits to the front line to fight this. Russia has more than enough volunteers and qualified personnel that they're not sending untrained boys to the front. So these people are going somewhere else and learning about military service so that down the road, if needed, they can defend their home.
Absolutely. Thank you, Arend. Fantastic. Well, guys, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, comment, please. I am Expat American on YouTube, and this guy is
Arend Feenstra, Countryside Acres, and Anissa, of course.
Countryside Corner.
Yeah, for all our viewers, if you don't know Joe by now, you've been listening to him for a while here today, and we did a bunch of wonderful videos with him the other day. So go over to his channel and subscribe there as well. And give it a thumbs up, of course.
Guys. Appreciate it.
Yep, it's been a slice. Thanks for having us on.